Welcome back to Create the Life You Love. I'm your host, Georgia Woodbine. This podcast is on the Chapters Network. And I really enjoy doing these interviews because you get to really learn information. You get to get like successful tips on how to, you know, have strategies and techniques on how to grow in life and business. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about creating the life that you love. Now, feel free to share during this podcast. Make sure to subscribe and also make sure to go to my website, www.georgiawoodmine.com. Again, I'd just like to tell you what the podcast is about. It's about people sharing their knowledge and really helping to empower you and inspire you to really take that step forward to creating the life that you love. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Mr. Tony Reeves, and his mission is to educate, motivate, and inspire, really aligned with me, by sharing his knowledge. He has acquired knowledge over the years about law, history, and life to help enhance others and to help them reach their goals. Tony, welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Why don't you just
Thank you.
share
Thank
a
you.
little bit about your backstory and what you do and why you do what you do?
Well, my philosophy, and thank you, Georgia, for having me here this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you again. For those of you who may not be aware, Georgia and I actually I didn't realize it. We've gone back a number of years. I coming to where I am as a podcaster. She was actually one of my more regular guests when I was just getting into the podcast game, and it just dawned on me, Georgia, that I've been podcasting literally since I think 2007,
I
and so
know.
and so woo. but
We go
but
back.
that's
We go
but
back.
to give some backstory to who I am, I often tell people that I'm just a good old country boy from Southeast Arkansas. My journey started back in 1987 when I graduated from high school and moved to Florida to go to college at a small liberal arts school called the University of Tampa. Got my undergrad degree there, a bachelor's degree in biology. Got commissioned as an Army Reserve officer. Left there, went and started working for the state of Florida as my first job right out of college. While there, I actually then proceeded to get a master's degree while I was working for the state. And then after I got that, I then transitioned back into the military on a full-time basis as a naval officer. Did that for 3 years before a couple of my friends were like, okay, so what are you doing next? And so then I decided to get out of the military and go to law school. And
Wow.
after going to law school at Florida State University, I then proceeded to start to work for a law firm. I worked for a law firm for about 6 years. And then I didn't realize it until after you and I had conversations. I've literally had, in addition to the practice of law, other side businesses going on at the same time. So when I was an associate, I actually had an event planning business with a good friend of mine. Then there was a period of time after he and I discontinued that I did kind of a solo practicing attorney thing for a few. And then I just finally stepped out on faith, opened up my own law firm for almost 10 years before finally deciding to close my practice because I was appointed as a judge. And so I
Wow.
decided that I wanted to do both. So I tell people I have a position and I have a passion. My position is that as the judge, but my passion is motivate, inspire, and educate. So I have kind of two things going at the same time. It's all kind of crazy, but somehow it just all manages to work itself out.
Oh, wonderful. I didn't even know that. Were you always a judge, or this is something that transpired since the last time we spoke?
Yeah, it actually transpired. Gosh, I got appointed as a judge in 2017.
Okay.
And I think I think I've had the opportunity and pleasure of interviewing you. I think 3 or 4 times. So the most recent time was a couple of years ago. So I was actually a judge at the time
Hmm.
when you and I had a chance and so forth. But yeah, it was an interesting turn because I had not ever envisioned myself being a judge, even though I had a few friends who thought they could see that in my future. I didn't see that in my future. And so
Hmm.
when an opportunity presented itself, fortunately, I was blessed that I had friends around and my wife around to basically say, if not you, why not you? So I went ahead and
Exactly.
I went through the process, and
Wow.
it was a long process because sometimes people will ask me, how long did it take you to become a judge? And I tell them, I applied in 13, I got appointed in 17. So it was a 4 year process that had all kind of weird turns, but they all
Mhm.
seemed to turn in the right direction. So I cannot complain.
Wonderful. Congratulations. I'm so, so excited for you. I mean, you know, I always share like whether you believe it or not, like we all have the power to shape our lives based on our thoughts and what we believe we can create. And like you said, why not you? You know, it's all people are always talking themselves out of doing things, you know, and I think a lot of times it's because of their common fears, right? Fear of
Mhm.
the unknown, fear of not having enough, fear of losing something, or even the most common one, fear of what other people are going to think and what they're going to say about you taking this step. So, as an entrepreneur, can you share with us like a piece of advice that you would give someone starting out in their business?
There is a scene that if you ever watch the movie, and I'm gonna go pop culture on here for a second. There's a movie called Top Gun Maverick,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a scene in the movie where he walks up and Tom Cruise's character is Maverick, and he's talking to all these hotshot young pilots, and he walks up and he has this thick manual. He
Mm-hmm.
says, "This is everything you need to know that you've learned about flying," and he threw it in the trash. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Trust me, everybody else knows that as well." One of the biggest dangers that I had to break myself out of was believing that I had to follow somebody else's path.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so engrossed in all the things they say. It's always the magical they, George.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever defines who they is, but it's always the magical they.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you that your business will die. Most businesses die after a year. Most businesses don't survive after 5 years. And for my profession as an attorney and in doing different things, people say, well, you need to be in billboards, you need to be in radio ads, you need to do this, you need to do that. The magical days will usually slow you from your growth. Not
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times people don't know the information that you get out there to help you go forward is to guide, not necessarily to instruct. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that we hold on to those things and we say, okay, but the book says I've got to do this. So what happens? Imagine yourself in a situation where you've created an event planning business, and all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden, people who know that you're a natural event planner are rushing to give you business. But what do? You stop them and say, wait a minute, I need a business plan first.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. So all these people are ready to give you business, but you're going to tell them to stop until you get all this extra stuff together and then come back to them later. So one of the things I had to learn quickly is when you have the passion to pursue your dream, especially in the entrepreneurial ranks, you've
Mm-hmm.
got to trust that passion is not going to steer you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, I was lucky. My wife was my office manager for the majority of the time of my practice. Many a times did we have these conversations because what ends up happening is your blessings are usually right there in front of you, but you're so convinced that those blessings can't be real that you redirect your energy towards other things while the blessings are trying to come to you. And I had that happen multiple times where I had to stop and say, oh, okay, I don't need to do exactly as that firm, and that firm. I can do it my way and it can be okay.
That's true. That is so true. And, you know, I think, you know, so many of the things that you touched upon is so important, like basically following your own intuition when you're making decisions and not relying on other people to tell you, okay, this is right for you or this is wrong for you, but really following that passion and trusting God. Because for me, that's all I know. You know what I mean? Like when you have faith, you have to believe even when you don't see it. There's a saying, you have to have faith like a mustard seed, and you could tell that mountain, move from here to there. So you really have to believe that you have the ability to create whatever it is that you're desiring to create. Now, can you share with us like some of your biggest fears that you had to deal with before, you know, taking that on, saying, yes, I could do this. Yes, I know, you know, I can make this happen. What were some of your fears that you had to go through?
Oh my gosh, probably some of the biggest fears that I had was the expectation that I was going to fail spectacularly. That was
Mhm.
probably the biggest one that came in my mind, because one of the things that becomes dangerous when you're around people who are successful, or let me strike that, you perceive as being successful.
Mhm.
You see them with their buildings, you see them with their cars and so forth like that. And if you're not exactly where they are, you have this expectation that either one, you're not going to be as great as them, or you may not be as great as all. And I can tell you, for me, I had an expectation to fail spectacularly. And when I say that, some people look at me like, what does that even mean? What that means is that I didn't have confidence in myself
Mhm.
that I could go out and do it and be successful. And the other thing I didn't do is that I didn't define what success meant to me. Now, success can always be, most people, money is the easy one, but
Mhm.
lifestyle is a success. Peace of mind is a success. Being able to maneuver. I think you and I, Georgia, we talked about this when I was talking to you about your endeavors, which also inspired me. Just being at peace with failing spectacularly, knowing that that's going to help you grow and succeed spectacularly.
Mhm.
It took me a minute to get comfortable with that reality. And while I was getting comfortable because I was anticipating the failure, what I didn't see is that I was succeeding at the exact same time.
Mhm.
And so one of my biggest fears, oh gosh, and Georgia, I know you can relate to this.
Mhm.
When I was running my own business as a law firm, I literally woke up every morning to look at my phone to see if I got an alert from the bank to see if money hit. And so I was doing that every day, Monday through Saturday, because the banks I had Wells Fargo, they hit on Saturday. So on Saturday.
Mhm.
So, but the whole time, what was fascinating, what was happening was as I was anticipating the failure, something weird happened. My door stayed open.
Right.
I mean, year one stayed open, two, three, four, five, six, seven stayed open, and I still was in that mindset. Now there are going to be people say, "Oh, that means you were hungry." No, I was paranoid because I was expecting the wool to be pulled out from underneath my legs, and that I was going to be revealed to be this imposter business owner. Guess what?
Mhm.
It never happened. So it's this fear of expecting. And I know a lot of us go into doing businesses or we do things, but how many people out there literally hold themselves back from doing something because they have an expectation of failing spectacularly? So they
Mhm.
stick with what they know confidently, and even though their passion and their energy and the essence of them can get them to that next point, they don't want to try that because they're just so worried that they will explode and fail spectacularly. And I can tell you, as someone who actually did run a business for a number of years, that was a mean thing that jumped on me. And if I could, Georgia, if there was one time, and I got to share this, one of my good friends, I love her to death, brilliant young lady. She was an attorney. She had multiple attorneys working for her. She had her own business building, and we both kind of started at the same time. And I was like, man, she's all that, and I'm over here like a buster. And I remember my wife turned to me and she asked me, "Do you want to have multiple attorneys?" I said, "No." "Do you ever want to have a building?" I said, "No, not really." "You have a virtual practice." And she was like, "You have a virtual practice?" I said, "Yeah." "You have a virtual practice?" Had an office manager, had two or three paralegals, and she was like, "Why do you have it the way you have it now?" I said, "So I can have the flexibility to go anywhere and do anything I want to at a moment's notice. And it just makes it easier for me to be able to maneuver." Like,
Mhm.
I practiced I practiced my firm when we were at Mardi Gras. So I literally was sitting there in the window looking at the street parade in front of the hotel while I was working on a case. I was like, this is awesome. And so she was like, so what you're telling me is you've successfully created a firm that supports the life that you want. So why
Mhm.
would you want hers?
Right.
And so that great fear was just, like I said, when you have all these other externals, so the fear of failing spectacularly, comparing yourself to the others and so forth, that's a powerful thing. It's only when you look inward and you realize, okay, that's their success. It doesn't have to be mine.
There you go. And it's so important that you say that because I think that there's basically like two mindsets that controls like the decisions that you make in life. And most people don't even know they have that particular mindset. There's two mindsets. It's either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And the fixed mindset is really based on like, okay, I can't do this because it's too hard, or I'm not going to succeed at this, or this other person's better than me, or I don't like to be challenged because it's too hard, or if someone else succeeds in life, I'm jealous of them. That's having a fixed mindset. That's when you know you have a fixed mindset. You prefer the familiar and you stick to what you know. Now, when you have a growth mindset, you embrace being challenged. You look at opportunities as ways to grow, and you like to try new things. So when you succeed, you look at other people and they inspire you. So that's the difference of knowing, like, if you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And a lot of times in life, that is what really creates those barriers between you and your success. And there's a quote that I love, and it says, it's by Dr. Steve Maraboli. It says, the universe doesn't give you what you ask for with your thoughts. It gives you what you demand with your actions. So it's always about action steps. It's always about what can I do today to move towards the lifestyle. Like, right, because we're talking about creating the life you love. And Tony, you was just talking about that. Like, your wife had to, like, really reaffirm that with, you're living the life that you love. So why do you have to look and compare yourself to someone else? And I think in life, a lot of times people, you know, don't try something because they're comparing themselves. And that's another thing, like an invisible lid that a lot of people create by comparing themselves to others. Now, why don't you share with us, like, I know, like, there's so many different things that you have to do when you have a business. Can you share, like, some productivity hacks with our guests on things that you do, like, on a daily basis that really helps you to stay, like, organized and productive in your business?
Absolutely. So for me, I'm looking for inspiration, and I'm looking for inspiration on a daily basis. And here's the thing that's fascinating that I think a lot of people don't realize. It doesn't take much to be inspired if you are truly looking to be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at doing balancing two things. The reason why I tell people I'm here to motivate, educate, and inspire is because I come from the village mentality where I truly believe in the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child, and then I follow that up to say we never stop being a child. So
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that, what I do is I am looking for areas where I can provide insight that can be helpful to whoever can benefit from it. So my target population tends to be three very unique demographics: 45 to 54, which is right where I'm at right now. 28, so get the demographics right before me, which is basically, gosh, I'm doing math backwards. So 34 to 45, and then, I'm going 25 to 35. The reason why those three are important to me is I'm trying to give insight in terms of what I am seeing at this point now, because when you're in my demographics, this is usually your peak professional money making years. And usually, depending on the circle of people that you have around you, you probably have access to a lot of people who can share knowledge with you at a level that you probably wouldn't have appreciated when you were in your 30s. So I try to share insight from that perspective. Then I think about what life was like when I was getting ready to pivot, to when I was making those moves. And then I'm thinking about life from the standpoint of individuals who are just coming into that first part of their career. So one of the things that I tell people when they're talking to me, I'm like, listen, when you're thinking about making your moves,
Mm-hmm.
think about what inspires you. The worst thing, and I'm going to take your analogy, your breakdown of fixed mindset and growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems with fixed mindset is that we want to do what everybody else does because we are convinced that the way they do it on a sustained basis works. So if we don't do it like that, then we're wrong. The
Right.
problem is that there's one caveat to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's one universal thing that is unique, and that's you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing yourself a disservice trying to pigeonhole yourself into this fixed idea of something that you need to do. So one of the things, just using your productivity hacks, is take the opportunity to be inspired. And I'm going to tell you to do something that probably is going to blow your mind but I'm older, so I got to say it. Write it down. No, don't type it out. Don't text, voice to text. Physically write it down. We often lose sight of how powerful tactile behavior is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, I'm not going to lie. I do things on my phone in terms of typing notes and on my iPad typing notes. But every now and then I'll go into a Borders or a bookstore and I'll just get me a small journal because guess what? If you're on a plane, you may not want to reach for your pocket and try to pull it out. There's something tactile about it. And I tell people not only just write it down, write the date of when you wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? You might have a brilliant epiphany and you write it down, and then 3 months later you go back and you say, oh, that's what I meant, and it inspires you. I know it's easy to get caught up in all the bells and whistles, and I think it's great that we have technology that gives us all these great things, but
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to go. It's sometimes there's nothing wrong going old school, just a little bit, not a whole lot, but just a little bit. I'm not telling you to get a whole bunch of journals, but just writing something down can on a regular basis and committing to it. And the other thing is congratulate yourself. It's okay if you didn't do 100 things you had planned today, but you did one. That's
Mm-hmm.
one more thing that you did yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
so you got to be okay with doing that as well.
Yes, I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind, right? If it's
Mhm.
not physically there in front of you, then it's like, why would you even think about it? Because you haven't like physically written. And journals, I am a firm believer of journals. I've had journals all my life. I even created a journal called Create the Life You Love, where the date book, a planner, and all of these things, like writing down your affirmations. What is your affirmations? What are things that you want to materialize? That's something else that you can use. Or writing down your goals, like what is your goal short term, what are your long term goals. Start with like 3 months, and then 6 months, and then 9 months, and then 12 months, and write it down. Because you know what, like he said, out of sight, out of mind. And I think that most people don't even realize that your success is always tied to the people that you surround yourself with. So if you're in a circle of people that are not challenging your knowledge, or really helping you to elevate, that's going to keep you stuck. You always have to look at, who is my circle of five? Are they bringing me positive energy? Are they bringing me negative energy? Are they helping me grow? Are they helping me to evolve? I mean, these are such important things when you're talking about success and moving to another level. Now, why don't you? I know you talked a little bit about this earlier, but why?
Georgia, are you there? Georgia, I lost you. Just want to make sure you're still there.
There we are.
Okay,
Technology, right?
gotta love it. What was your question? Fire away.
So the question was, how can you define, like, what does success means to you? I know you started to talk a little bit about that, but why don't you expand a little bit about what does success mean to you?
It's interesting that you asked that question because I had that question posed to me not too long ago, and it was mind blowing because I'm 54 I'll be 54 this year,
Hmm.
and last year someone asked me, had you ever defined what the success meant to you? And I had to say, Georgia, I'm ashamed to admit it, but it's a reality that I think a lot of us face. I didn't. I didn't look at my success and think of success. In other words, let me take that back. I did define success. I defined success through how I viewed others' success, but not for myself.
Hmm.
And so the danger of doing that was that I devalued my own success and gave
Hmm.
greater value to others. So there were many times where when I became an officer in the military, people were like, "Oh, that's great." Really? I didn't because I convinced myself that it wasn't a big deal because I felt that anybody could do it. Same thing with law school. Same thing with going becoming an attorney.
Hmm.
So I'm the same with opening my own law practice. Same with being a judge. At every point I did not think in my mind it was that great of a deal because I felt like anybody else could do it. But the reality is that there's nothing wrong with admitting that not everybody can do what you do.
That's
Like
right.
I remember when I was looking at your background and I kept thinking, man, she's done some stuff. I don't think I could ever do some of the things that George has done. But that's because you're unique. That's supposed to be the case. And so I
Hmm.
never viewed myself in that same light. So I've started to answer your question. I've gotten to the point now where I'm starting to view success in an evolving manner where I'm saying to myself, like now I'm happy with saying that I'm successful in the sense that I have of the material things that I want and in the professional station that I want. But now I'm looking for another level of success where I'm looking as to how can I ensure that I don't take to the grave with me the experiences and the knowledge that I've attained.
Mhm.
Someone can benefit from them. And I've got mentees who reach out to me all the time. And I'm like, why are you reaching out to me? And I realized recently because they're doing the exact same thing I did when I was their
Right.
age. I don't want any of that good knowledge you got to go to the grave with you. I need you to give it to me so that I can use it and I can pass it on to the next person. So I
Absolutely.
define success more so today is how can I ensure that that happens?
That's so true. I mean, when you think about like accomplishing the things you want and having the desire for things, it's really about what most people want in life, right? And what do most people want? They want to be loved, they want to be accepted, they want to be respected, they want to be appreciated. And oftentimes people strive for those external things to fulfill those emotional, you know, those voids. So it's really about, getting to a place where you realize that there's nothing really missing for you to be happy. There's nothing really missing for you to be successful. There's nothing really missing for you to live a fulfilled life. And what I mean by that is that, like Tony was saying, once you are operating in your passion, that is the most fulfilling thing. When you're operating in something that you love to do, and you had said something earlier, Tony, about, learning that when you have a gift, it's your gift. Other people look at you and say, "Wow, you're so good at that. Wow, you have a natural ability that. Wow, you have a natural ability to do that, or you have a knack for that." But that's because it's your gift. That's because it's your talent. That's because it's what you were meant to do. And not everybody else can do what you do. So I'm so glad that you realize that you are authentic, you are different, you have something to give to the world, and you have your purpose, and your purpose is not my purpose, and his purpose is not her purpose.
And I will tell you, I totally agree with that. And I will also be the first one to tell you that it took me a minute to get comfortable with that reality, that my gift was just that, my gift. Because so many times I kept putting myself in thinking that my gift was that which was going to be shared with everyone and that everyone else shared that same talent for that same gift. And so what I ended up doing was I started discounting the uniqueness that I had. And so I'm just really excited that I'm at a point in my life now where I start to recognize that it's okay for me to embrace my uniqueness.
Wow. I don't know. I'm sorry about this, guys. The camera, I don't know. Technology, I don't know what's going on, but we're
It's
back.
okay.
We're back. um, did you hear me, Tony?
I missed the last part. Go for it. What were you going to
Oh, I'm
ask?
sorry. The last question is, if you were to look in the mirror, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, chase your dream. Don't let your dream chase you. And I say that to say a lot of times what ends up happening is that we have so many signs around us telling us that we have the ability to take our dream to the next level and do things with our dreams. But we have allowed ourselves to fall into this conformist society where we tell ourselves that we got to conform to what society expects us to do. And by doing that, we ignore all the signs around us that are telling us that we should be trying our best to live our life and pursue our dreams to the fullest. So I would tell my younger self, hey, if you got signs around you telling you that you can live the dream that you're living, live it and don't let your dream keep constantly trying to remind you. You can do so right now and make it happen.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera, but thank you so much, Tony. Thank you for sharing the knowledge, sharing the gems, and thank you all for tuning in. And can you just share your website, Tony, where they can find you?
Sure, go to anthonyreeves.com or if you any social media platforms at my name is Reeves. And I look forward to seeing you there. You can subscribe, you can post, you can like, whatever way, let's engage.
Thank you so much for joining us for another Create the Life You Love. Look, there I am. Another Create the Life You Love podcast. Technology. You could never predict what's going to happen. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being our guest. And until next time, bye.
Take care.